What if I told you that the most successful man in this story was born with nothing, owned nothing, and was told he would always be nothing? What if I told you that the night he was born, his father was handed a bill he could not pay? And what if I told you that same boy paid off every single debt his family ever had before he turned 24? This is not a fairy tale. This is what happens when a human being simply refuses to quit. Stay with me, because this story will change the way you see your own life forever. Stories that shift your mind. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and join us at Mindshift. Help make ends meet. Noah watched them both, every single day, with eyes too serious for an 8-year-old. One evening he asked his father quietly, "Why do we never have enough, Dad?" Thomas put down his tools, looked at his son, and said, "Because nobody in this family has ever dared to want more than survival, son. Maybe you will be the first." Noah stared at his father, and something woke up inside him that never went back to sleep. At 10, Noah began collecting scrap metal from the streets of Millcroft every Saturday morning. An old cart, 2 small hands, and a purpose bigger than his age. He sold it at the recycling yard, counted every coin, saved every penny. At 11, he used his savings to buy cheap candy wholesale and sold it to classmates at school. Between classes, quietly, professionally, like a miniature businessman. His teacher caught him, confiscated his entire stock, and called his parents. Noah sat in the principal's office, not ashamed, not scared, just quietly calculating his next move. The principal spoke sternly about rules and discipline. Noah nodded respectfully, but his eyes were already looking somewhere beyond that room. At 13, Noah found a broken bicycle thrown out by a neighbor. He carried it home, took it apart piece by piece, studied every component. He watched repair videos on an old phone at the library, pausing and rewinding, until he understood every detail. 2 weeks later, he rode that bicycle down his street, fixed completely, by his own 2 hands. His neighbor watched, mouth open. "How did you fix that?" Noah smiled and saw an opportunity. He made a sign, stuck it on his gate: "Noah's Bicycle Repair, cheap and fast." His first customer arrived that same afternoon. Noah fixed it in 1 hour, charged fairly, and shook hands like a grown man. Word spread through Millcroft faster than Noah could keep up. At 15, his repair work had expanded to motorcycles, and his small gate workspace had become a proper backyard workshop. Thomas visited the workshop one evening, walked around slowly, looking at every tool, every organized shelf, every repaired vehicle. He touched the workbench with his hand, and his eyes filled with something he had not felt in a very long time. He looked at Noah, could not find the words, just nodded slowly. Noah understood everything in that single nod. At 17, the owner of a local transport company, Mr. David Ellis, heard about the teenage mechanic on Millcroft Street. He came himself to see. He watched Noah work on an engine, skilled hands, focused eyes, zero wasted movement. "I have 23 vehicles," Ellis said. "I want you to service all of them. Every month, fixed contract." Noah wiped his hands on a cloth, looked up at this businessman, and said, "I will need a proper space, proper tools, and fair payment." In that order. Ellis stared at this 17-year-old, then smiled with genuine respect. Done. At 18, Noah rented his first proper garage space on Millcroft Main Road and painted his first real sign, Fisher Auto Services. Ruth stood outside that garage, read the sign, covered her mouth with both hands, and could not speak. Noah stood beside her, arm around her shoulders, both looking at that sign, in a silence worth more than any words. At 21, Fisher Auto Services had 3 mechanics working under Noah, all trained personally by him. He taught every one of them the same way he had taught himself, patiently, precisely, with zero shortcuts. At 23, Fisher Auto Services won a city government contract. maintaining all municipal vehicles in Millcroft and 2 neighboring towns. Noah sat in that government office, in a suit he had bought himself, and signed that contract with the same hand that had once pulled a scrap metal cart through these same streets. He stared at his signature for a moment, Thomas Fisher's boy, born in debt, signing a government contract. That evening, Noah drove to his parents' house. He placed an envelope on the kitchen table. Thomas's worn hands trembled as he opened it. He stared at the paper inside, looked at his wife, and for the first time in 23 years, the unbreakable man broke. A lifetime of weight lifted in a single silent tear. Ruth wrapped her arms around him and they held each other, the quiet sobs of relief filling the small kitchen. Noah watched them. His journey started with a debt notice in this very house. And tonight it ended here too. The cycle was broken. The boy who was born owing something now owned his family's freedom. Thomas's hands shook. Ruth covered her face and wept. Noah stood in the doorway, watching them, with the most peaceful smile of his entire life. The debt he was born with was finally paid. At 27, Fisher Auto Group had 6 locations across the region. Noah was invited to speak at the National Young Entrepreneurs Conference. He walked on stage, looked into the crowd, and saw his father and mother sitting in the front row. Thomas, in clean clothes, sitting straight, the proudest man in that room. Noah paused. "I was born in debt," he began. "My father held me in one arm and a bill he could not pay in the other. And he told me, maybe you will be the first to want more than survival." He looked directly at his father. "Dad, I just wanted you to know I heard you." Thomas wiped tears silently. "You did not choose the family you were born into. You did not choose the debt, the struggle, the starting point. But you get to choose what you do with the life you were handed." Noah Fisher was born in debt, but he refused to let his beginning write his ending. And so can you. In Noah's office, framed on the wall, is the original hospital debt notice. Not as a reminder of pain, as proof that where you start means absolutely nothing compared to where you decide to go. If this story moved you, share it. Tell them your beginning is not your destiny. And if you want more stories that shift your mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and join us at Mindshift Daily. New story every week. See you in the next one.